listening to the Voice of Reason podcast. And now, here's your host, Ben.
Yes, indeed it is, and yes, I am. Welcome to the Voice of Reason podcast. How many episodes have we done? I don't know. I'm not going to give this an episode number anyway. This is kind of a special report that we're doing anyway for this episode. So I just want to move this mic into a more comfortable position. Give me a second. I had this all set up, but the microphone likes to sag on me. This is unprofessional, but forgive me for a second. I don't know. I can't get this thing to stay in place no matter what I do. It's this knob on here. Trying to twist it to keep it. There, that's going to have to do. Okay, so why are we here today? Well, let me go ahead and bring up why we're here. That image should do the trick for you. And I'm going to pull it up on my side so I can go ahead and read it. So I don't have to look at the other screen, which is kind of hard to see it. Okay, hi, the Voice of Reason. As you may know, our community guidelines describe which content we allow and don't allow on YouTube. Your video, Sandy Hook Truth and How I See It versus LP, the Voice of Reason podcast with Ben, episode 103, was flagged for us to review. Upon review, we've determined that it violates our guidelines, and we've removed it from YouTube. We know that this might be disappointing, but it's important to us that YouTube is a safe place for all. If content breaks our rules, we remove it. If you think we've made a mistake, you can appeal and we'll take another look. Keep reading for more details. Oh, I will. Video content restrictions. Content glorifying or inciting violence against another person or group of people is not allowed on YouTube. We also don't allow any content that encourages hatred of another person or a group of people based on their membership in a protected group. We review educational, documentary, artistic, and scientific content on a case-by-case basis. Limited exceptions are made for content with sufficient and appropriate context and where the purpose of posting is clear. Impact on your account. Please note that this removal has not resulted in a community guideline strike or penalty on your account. Thanks for that. Although I consider a removal of my video for reasons stated that do not match what you're actually doing it for a penalty, but thanks for small favors, I guess. Okay, so anyone who's been on my channel before, do you recall this video? Do you recall any moment in said video where I incited violence toward any person or people? Did I glorify such act of violence or the event itself in question? Excuse me, maybe I shouldn't say in question, the event that occurred. Infer anything from that, on my opinion on it, that you will. But I'm not here to provide my opinion on that. I'm providing my opinion on my video being removed. So I don't want to digress too much. But if you are new here, you wouldn't know whether or not I actually did that, would you? And I can't prove it to you that I didn't do it because I can't show you the video. They removed it. How convenient. I can't even post a clip. Well, I could, but then this video gets removed. I could go find somewhere else to put it to show it to you. But I think I'm going to do it a lot easier for you and be objective about what they're saying. I watched that video a couple times just with a critical mind, watching my own video, trying to pick out anything that could be construed as a call to violence. And the closest thing I could find, and I'm paraphrasing on this, I said something needs to be done about people who take away people's right for free speech. That doesn't specifically call for violence. It just says something. It's not very specific. And that's important. I'm going to call up, I'm going to pull up rather some definitions of the two words incite and glorify, just so we can see exactly what they mean. And that way, you guys will know exactly what they mean. And there's no question. Because I think YouTube might be using these in a different sort of context. I'm trying to give them benefit of the doubt. But when you say you remove my video for inciting or glorifying violence against a group of people or person or what have you, or incite hatred or whatever, you better have met those definitions. Otherwise, you're doing something you're not saying you're doing. All right, so let's look at our first definition. Incite, which means to encourage or stir up violent or unlawful behavior. For example, the offense of inciting racial hatred. Urge or persuade someone to act in a violent or unlawful way. Unlawful way. Let's say that right. It's kind of a mouthful there, but okay, so did I, by that definition, incite anybody to do that when I simply say something needs to be done about censorship? It's a very general statement. In order for that to be incitement of violence, I would have to say, instead of something, I would have to say, and don't take this out of context, please, because I'm giving a pure example in order to make this fit what they said I did. Instead of something needs to be done about censorship, I would have to have said, please, people watching my video, I want you to go violently attack anybody who disagrees with censorship. Again, that's an example of what I would have had to say if I was inciting violence. But I did not say that. I said something needs to be done about censorship. It's a very general statement. There are nonviolent ways to address censorship. Do I have to say, specifically what in a nonviolent way at the end of my sentence? Or can I just trust that most people are going to be intelligent enough to not read between the lines of what I'm saying and to something it isn't? That's the real crux of the problem with the statement. If you're going to take a general statement and turn it into a violent one when there was no violence intended, is that really on me or is that on the people that listen to me? It's more on them, unless I specifically said something. If I were to say Sandy Hook was a great thing, that's glorifying it. And again, that's just an example of I'd have to say that sort of thing in order to glorify that sort of thing. Or I'd have to say how glorious it would be if somebody were to commit acts of violence. And I've not said that except in this video now where I'm giving examples of what I would have to say. And if giving examples of what I would have to say to make this fit constitutes what the same offense they're saying I did, which I clearly didn't do, then I don't know what to do anymore if we can't even bring examples up. So let me just get the next word up before I rant too much about this in general, because I said we'd give two definitions and I've only been to the first word, but this just gets me fired up. And I never would have made this video if this hadn't happened. I probably would have stayed inactive on this channel. So if one thing this has done, it's riled me up a little bit. Okay, we need to bring glorify up, though. We've had incite up there too much. All right. Let me get over there. There we go. There's glorify. I'll bring it up on my side. so I can see it too. All right. Let's ignore the first definition because that's not what they're talking about. They're not talking about worship God or praise him or anything like that. They're talking about describe or represent as admirable, especially unjustifiably. For example, a football video glorifying violence. Again, I ask you, anyone who's watched my video before or look at that specific statement I gave you, which is the only thing I could objectively find in my video that could be misconstrued as a violent call to action in some bizarro world, does that statement, something need to be done about censorship, glorify violence? Or glorify anything as an admirable thing unjustifiably? I mean, honestly, I don't think so. I think anybody with half a brain wouldn't think so. All right, but let me get that word off the screen. I think we've looked at it long enough. We don't want to glorify, do we? All right. See, we'll get back to just the logo there. There we go. And I've already recorded this once, and I lost what I thought was golden second half of this video, where I ranted for quite a while, and I thought I was making a lot of sense, and it might have convinced somebody you normally wouldn't convince with what I was saying, but that's all gone now because I stupidly didn't set up OBS correctly. So it just wasn't recording my mic when I switched to the screen you're looking at now, just the plain logo. So dumb on me, but maybe it gives me a second chance to make this a bit shorter, get my point across a bit better. But I digress. All right, so here's the problem. If YouTube's going to ban my video and just delete it, and they're going to say they banned it or deleted it because I incited or glorified violence against a person or people, or encouraged hatred of a protected group or whatever. If they're going to say that and I actually haven't done it, what does that tell you? I mean, somebody had to look at this, right? They say somebody looked at it. They flagged it. And then someone else, according to what YouTube is saying, reviewed it and agreed with it. They said, I did that. So the only conclusion I can draw is that person is either A, if somebody actually reviewed this after it was flagged, they were A, against censorship of alternative ideas about things that could have occurred instead of what the mainstream media says. B, it's just a computer program that doesn't actually look at it. I'm more on the line with B right now because think about it. There are millions of videos that get posted to YouTube on a daily basis. There's no way they have that many employees at YouTube that could review every single video. And I'm not saying all millions of videos get reviewed, but gotta be at least a couple 100,000 people posting a conspiracy slanted video on a daily basis, right? There's no way they have that many people on staff in order to handle that kind of thing. So there's your two choices there. So if we're gonna go with option B, that's been the whole problem with YouTube all along, with this whole system in place where if somebody wants to be, quote, excuse me for being vulgar here, but someone wants to be a jackass, they want to just mess with your channel and flag you, most of the time, unless you're a big channel, you're not going to be able to get that overturned. Because there's nobody actually on the other side that can review it and say, that was wrong. Sorry about that. We'll put your video right back. The impact of this kind of behavior can be devastating if you have a huge channel that actually needs this kind of thing for income. I don't. I didn't set up that loop correctly. I just noticed it went to a black screen for a second. I'll have to fix that. Could just probably have it pause or something. But just ignore that if it keeps doing that. I'll fix it in the next one. Anyway, I'm interrupting my thought here. I was saying that we need to, if we got somebody who's not at the other end of the screen, we need to fix that. If a video gets sent in that doesn't match what the flag is for, that video, someone needs to be on the other end to look at it and say, no, we're going to overturn that. But that's not very feasible, but that's what needs to happen. So I certainly hope it is an option A, and that there's this conspiracy against conspiracies. As ridiculous as that sounds, the fact that sounds ridiculous probably means it's not true. I would like to believe it's just a computer program that's looking at these things, and because of something in the program, it thinks that it's right. Because I've seen other channels on the that I've watched that had videos removed that are actually anti-conspiracy theory, and they were making fun of people with conspiracy theory, and their video got taken down. So there's something, pardon the expression, but wonky with the machine. I don't know why that popped into my head. I don't even know if that's right. Wonky, wacky, maybe. We'll just say wacky because I think that's actually a word. There's something wacky with the machine program that YouTube made for these videos. Anyway, so before I go completely off the rail here and forget what my point is, and forgive me if I'm repeating myself, but YouTube needs to make sure that if a video gets submitted to them and the reason stated that they are flagging, it has to match what actually happens in that video. You can't flag a video, for instance, and this is a very simple example. Let's say you have a video that's just and this is going to sound stupid, but bear with me. Let's say you have a video with just a forest and a single sheep on it, okay? And it just shows the sheep walking through in the forest. For some reason, there's a sheep in a forest, okay? And then some jackass comes along and they flag the video and they say that video is inciting violence. The correct response for YouTube is to look at that and say, that doesn't match. Did anybody in this video, in voiceover or otherwise, incite violence? Did they glorify violence? If the reason being flagged doesn't match, that should be overturned. And the person that flagged it should be disciplined. That's what should happen. That's not what's happening. So I don't, in principle, have a problem with YouTube not liking conspiracy theory videos. If they don't want them on this platform, they don't want me on this platform, that's what they need to say. That's what the flag button should say. It should say, this video has been removed because it talks about conspiracy theory, and we at YouTube don't accept conspiracy theory. We don't like people talking about conspiracies. That's what it should plainly state. And if they did that, it would be transparent. I wouldn't like it, but at least the reason my video got removed would make sense. Instead, what we have happening is a video gets removed for promoting violence, inciting violence, and none of the kind of thing like that occurred on the video I have in question. And if you hear cats meowing in the background, I forgive you. I don't know if my mic is going to pick that up. They're getting upset because I got them in the other room. And they have separation anxiety or something right now. I don't know what their problem is. But the bigger problem, the problem is, like I said, people rely on income here. I don't. I don't make any money off of this channel at all. I never got big enough to do that, and that wasn't the reason I joined anyway. I just wanted to talk about what I considered to be the truth, or at least I wanted to get closer to it. I wanted to present alternative theory out there, look at the world differently, and and give you an alternate version of what may have happened according to the way I was seeing things. If you didn't agree with me, I always said do your own research. I never said what I said was the right conclusion. I just said come to your own conclusion after doing your own research. I always encourage that because you should never take anyone's word for gospel, even the mainstream media. You don't trust anybody. Look into it yourself and come to your own conclusion. If at the end of the day you come to the conclusion the mainstream media is correct, more power to you. I can't fault that if you've actually done all your research and that's what you still think. I mean, you got to be you. You have to think what you think. I happen to think, though, that most people that actually do look into this and completely look into it and go down, pardon the expression, the rabbit hole, and just look and look and look, it might all come together for you, and you might open your mind enough to question things at least and start to think a bit differently about the world around you and not just think that, you know, the government's got your best interests at heart or the mainstream media tells you the truth all the time. You might just start to question that, and that's healthy. It's okay to do that. The default position of anybody should be disbelief. You have to come to belief by looking at the evidence. You can't come to the belief by just what someone tells you, because eyewitness testimony is not very reliable. It's one of the least reliable types of evidence. You can use it as support, but it can't be your foundation, if that makes any sense to you. I mean, support and foundation are synonyms in a sense, but you know what I mean. It can't be your whole thing that it stands on. There has to be more substance to it. So anyway, if this continues and we scare off, because this is going to happen. I mean, I'm already considering this myself. If, you know, my channel gets deleted, I might not come back. I might not even do my other channel anymore. I might unsubscribe from a lot of the big YouTubers out there and just not come back to the platform at all. If YouTube wants to get rid of me, they probably will at that point. And I can guarantee them the number of people that are actually like me, that have an open mind, like a lot of these big YouTubers as well. And when they leave, that's going to cut into the profit margin of those YouTubers, which will cut into the profit margin of YouTube. So if YouTube wants to keep shooting themselves in the foot, they'll continue to censor more and more. There's been a question about what is YouTube anyway. It's a private organization. Does a private organization have the right to censor their content they don't like on their platform? Well, if it's a platform, not necessarily. They have to allow anybody to say anything they want to say, as long as it doesn't cross any lines. And we all know what crossing the lines means. To glorify or incite violence, that's crossing the lines. To actually genuinely, specifically threaten somebody in that way is crossing the lines. If you're not doing that and you're just saying general statements like something needs to be done about censorship, that's not enough to say that person is inciting violence. It just says something needs to be done. That's a general statement. There are non-violent ways to do things, like I said. You know, the implication by saying something needs to be done is not to go commit a violent act to do something about censorship. It's to talk about it, basically, and discuss it and reason it out, to come to like the logical conclusion that it's okay for anybody to say anything they want to say, as long as it doesn't physically harm anybody. There's this thing in society now where people think they have the right not to be offended. And nothing can be further from the truth. You do not have the right not to be offended. If someone says to you offends you, the only thing you have the right to do is to tell them that it offends you, that you disagree with it. That's it. And if they still don't shut up, I hate to say it, but tough. If they're not physically harming you, the only thing you have to do is turn around and walk away. And just ignore what they're saying. People need to learn to, they need to learn to do that. Because if you don't, you're just going to give that person more power. You're going to give them what they want, which is attention. So if you don't like that idea, ignore it. There might be some other people that do like that idea. And if hypothetically a bunch of people get together that like the same idea and they decide to do something really violent and stupid, let's blame the individuals involved in that and not the whole society of that idea. Just because some wacky conspiracy theorist guy goes out there and guns down a mall, for instance, of people who don't believe in space aliens, doesn't mean you need to say that everybody who's a conspiracy theorist needs to be locked up and put in a prison. You can't treat everybody as if they're the same, because we're not all the same. We're different people. We have different ideas. We're individuals. And as much as they want to lock us up into this black and white dichotomy, this Republican-Democrat dichotomy, or whatever otomy you want, if there's more than one group, which there happens to be many, many different groups. I mean, I've said it before. We need to stop identifying ourselves in ways where we keep dividing ourselves further. There needs to be more uniting. Instead of focusing on what makes us different, we need to focus on what makes us the same. Last I checked, every single person was a human being. We might have different skin colors, we might have different beliefs, but we're all human. Our blood is red when it bleeds out. I think it's blue before it bleeds. But that's aside the point. It's all the same color regardless of whether it's in you or out of you. You have many people that bleed next to each other are all going to bleed out red. And that's not a call to violence, so don't mistake what I'm saying. I'm just making a point. I'm not saying we all need to hold hands and be kumbaya with each other all the time. We're going to have arguments. We're going to disagree. But if we're going to disagree about something, let's not disagree with each other just simply because of cosmetic things. Just because, you're white and I'm black or whatever. We can't use that as what we're going to disagree about. We need to get past that. We've been around thousands of years or so as a species. We need to stop the petty stuff. And censoring people saying things you don't like isn't the right answer. That's all my point really is. And specifically to the case, as my screen goes to black and the loop gets screwed up again. Specifically, if you're going to censor a video from your channel or from your platform, make sure the reason you're saying you're censoring it matches the actual reason you're censoring it. Because otherwise, what you're doing becomes transparent. You're trying to make it look like everybody who is a conspiracy theorist is a violent wacko, which is not true. I don't even own a firearm. I don't like firearms. I don't like getting into fist fights with people. I'm practically one of the most nonviolent people you could ever meet. And I have an open mind to conspiracy. Conspiracies exist. They do. Anytime a group of people get together to bring about something, that's a conspiracy. The theory part that comes into play is when we don't have exactly all the facts, but we have little pieces, and then we're trying to put it together with a theory about what we think that conspiracy is about. What was the reason they did it? What was the ultimate goal? And there's nothing wrong with doing that. There's nothing wrong with coming up with theories on things. Yes, it's better to have facts to support those theories, because then your theory holds more water. But we don't always have all the facts. Sometimes we have to interpolate. Sometimes we have to extrapolate, theorize basically on little facts at all. And that's okay too. If someone wants to believe there are space aliens out there, If someone wants to believe 9/11 was an inside job, let them. Let them do that. Does it harm you? No. Does it harm anyone else? Physically? No. Emotionally, maybe? I could see emotional harm off the 9/11 thing. If people, you lost somebody during 9/11, they died, and someone tells you it's an inside job, it triggers you and makes you think they're saying it didn't happen. They're denying it happened. You know somebody who died and they're denying it. I could see that triggering you emotionally. I can see why that would make you upset. But again, it all comes down to you don't have the right to not be offended. It's plain and simple. Until the Constitution has that in there, until it's one of the Constitution amendments says every citizen has the right not to be offended. Until that's in there, you don't have that right. Is it kind of a dickish thing to do to go around saying people didn't die in 9/11 without having all the facts? Yeah. And even I haven't really come to that point where I've said that. I've asked questions about it. I thought there was a lot of fishy things. But I didn't mean to go into a lot of opinions about what I think here, but I'm just trying to give you examples. But, you shouldn't say something like that, like nobody died until you can prove it, because otherwise you look like a dick. Because it's been documented that people did die, and there's been people that have come forward that, they look pretty distressed to me. They're good actors or they're the real deal. And I think they're the real deal. I think people really died during 9/11. The question I have about it is what happened exactly. Because the story they presented doesn't make a lot of sense. But I'm going off on a tangent I did not intend to. I was trying to present an example so you understood what I was saying. And I'm kind of losing my chain of thought by that tangent. It's kind of late. So I think I'll end it here. I just want to remind everybody that, if you enjoyed this video, my rant about my other video here in question getting removed, you can hit the like button. Go ahead and subscribe to me. Leave a comment. Try to be nice about it if you disagree with me. Don't just start calling me names. Don't go ahead and flag this just because you disagree with me. If you disagree with me, I'd rather get into a discussion with you than having my video flagged, because I think I'm being very reasonable here in the way I'm presenting this. Yes, I'm a bit upset. Yes, it irritates me that this happened. I'm not alone. This has happened to a lot of people. This isn't just me. So I don't want to make it all about me. There's a lot of channels out there that I watch that this happened to. I think I even mentioned one of them that wasn't even talking about the conspiracy theory in support of it, was actually making fun of it. They got their channel, not their channel, but their video deleted. And then when even the people that are against this sort of thing are complaining about it, there's a problem. So, but yeah, as I always said, do your own research and come to the truth that you find after doing that. Be open to both sides. If you're coming into this with an open mind, you'll find truth no matter what conclusion you come to, because it'll be truth to you. I mean, there's only one truth, but there is a version of truth for everybody, and I can't fault you for coming to your own version of truth, your own, the way you see things, if you come to it honestly by looking at every piece of evidence and not only at the stuff that supports your position. This has been the Voice of Reason podcast with Ben. Hopefully, I'll be back with you very soon with a future episode. I might have to change the format. And, hey, would this be okay, YouTube, if I present the official narrative to everybody and then give the alternate version and then not draw conclusions myself, but just say you decide at the end? Would that be perfectly acceptable? Because that might be the way I do it. All right, I'm getting out of here. Thank you for watching. See you next time.